Welcome to the Rusted Garden. This is my community plot, and this is the last community plot video in the series for 2016. I will start again next year. Today I'm going to talk to you about how do you fertilize your garden in the fall and winter so it'll be ready for the spring. Talk about that raised bed over there, show you the construction for it. And over here I have asparagus that is going to be transplanted. I'm going to show you that whole process. And for those of you that have watched my videos, that asparagus was started in seed cells just like this back in last January 2016, transferred into a styrofoam cup, and then it was put into these large containers to grow for this year till I figured out where I wanted to put them. So I'm going to show you that whole process. And you might have noticed too, there's a big gap between my last video for the community plot and up till now. Basically I neglected this garden, unfortunately. Other life stuff came up. But what I found was that I was growing too much of the similar vegetables in this area and in my home garden, the Rusted Garden. So next year, this is going to be a garden that really focuses on All America Selection winners, stuff that I'm not growing in my other garden. I'm going to grow lots of melons, cantaloupes, and beans, and I'm going to just change the theme of this garden a little bit. Let me get to the raised bed over there and show you how I built that. That's something you could do now. Set it up, and come spring you got a planting area ready to go. So again, we're going to frame this out, remove all these plants because they're just not doing well. And they've been in the ground as long as the plants over here in these containers, and you can see they just didn't thrive. So we're going to go to a raised bed. Now, the wood I use is pressure treated pine. It's pressure treated with copper. It's been like that for 15 years. A lot of myths are out there saying that if you use pressure treated wood, you're going to poison your garden. That is absolutely not true anymore. In the past, when they used arsenic, there may have been a chance of that, but they don't use arsenic anymore. And in fact, copper is an organic method for treating diseases in your garden, and if you use a copper powder on your plants just once, or a copper spray just once, you're putting more copper into your garden than you're ever going to get out of the pressure treated wood. If you don't want to use pressure treated wood, you can use cedar, you can use red oak, you can buy something different. But I like using pressure treated wood because it will last 10 years and it's not expensive. So these are two pieces of wood. They cost me about $8 each, and I had them cut in half at Home Depot. They were 2 by 8 by 8, so they're 8 inches tall, 8 feet long, and I just asked them at Home Depot, cut them in half, so you don't even need to cut. So you have 4 pieces. They were only $8 a board, and what you want to do is just pre-drill 2 or 3 holes right into the wood. You don't need to go all the way through. Just get it started. That's so that when you put in the screws, you don't split your wood. And then you're going to get, those are actually 3-inch deck screws. You want 4-inch deck screws. That's enough length so that you can put these together. I'm going to put these together, show you what it looks like, and then we'll talk about filling the raised bed. I just put 3 screws right into the holes, and that will secure your frame. And you set it up just like this. Drop it into your 4 by 4 foot space. Now to fill this up, I have topsoil, which is inexpensive. That's like $1.50, $2 a bag. You're going to need 4 to 6 of those, depending on how much soil or compost or things you have around the yard. I'm also going to put in 1 bag of manure. Any kind of composted manure is fine. That's just to get the fertilizer, the low NP and K, into the soil. And then I also buy, I think they're 2 cubic feet peat moss bales. They're about $12. That's about a half a bag. I put the peat moss in there because that will retain water. So I'm going to go pick up a couple more topsoil bags, fill this up, and that will be ready for planting, you know, this weekend. And I'll show you the plants that I bring into this space. And again, don't overstress with the quality, quantity, or types of soils you're putting in here. You can just mix it up. As long as it drains nicely, you're adding in some sort of compost, some sort of manure, or you're adding in organic fertilizer, your plants are good to grow. The whole purpose for this space, remember, is that the water would sit 10 to 12 inches down there and the plants weren't growing. So we're going to raise everything up, and then we're going to put the plants back into here. peat moss has some acidity to it, so you want to put in some pelleted lime. That will help neutralize any acidity that might be in there. It also provides calcium, which is great to help your tomatoes and peppers not get a disease called blossom end rot, which is related to calcium levels and watering, but you want to throw in some lime. And all I do is, you don't have to be perfect. A handful, one corner, handful, the other corner. So it's going to be about 6 handfuls or so, and that's enough lime to mix in with the peat moss so you don't worry about any pH level change. And next step is really, we're going to mix this together, turn it over. I'm going to mulch the top with some wood chips, and then I'll get to planting. Everything was mixed together, and again, I don't want you to overstress with what has to go in here. Nothing has to be perfect. So it's about six bags or so of topsoil that are like $2. A thing of manure that you can get at the store, I think that was on sale for $3. A half bag of Miracle Grow that was left in here, a couple things of container soil that's kind of old, the peat moss, the lime, and I just mixed it all together. This is what it looks like. Going to put a layer of mulch on there, and this is ready for planting for this year. Next year, when the plants come out, this will even be better. It'll have a chance to break down, really mix together, and I'll just turn this over. That's one of the beauties of having a raised bed, is that I can mulch all around it, and then come spring next year, I just go right to this spot, turn over this space. The space that I put my energy into is a space where the plants are going to go. I actually wanted to show you the mulch. Mulch helps with 2 things. One, it'll keep weeds down. Actually 3 things. It looks really nice too, so it's not an eyesore, and it will also help keep the moisture in the soil, so once you water it, the sun's not going to come and evaporate it, and again, that will conserve a resource for you. You want to look at your raised bed, and right now it's 9 a.m. and you want to see how the sun tracks through the sky, because you don't want to put your massive big plants right in the front and then they block the sun from the rest of your plants. You want to plan that the bigger plants are in the back, the smaller plants are in the front. And if you look at the dragonfly, you can see where the shadow is falling. So I know that my sun tracks this way over here at my community plot, so I don't want to put tomatoes all along here because it's going to block the plants back there. So I hope that makes sense. Again, look for where the shadow is falling, because you don't want the shadow of the bigger plants blocking the sun from your other plants. Now remember, I talked about conserving resources. That's one of the great things for a raised bed. You also want to keep it a 4x4 because most arms are 2 feet long and you can reach in from any side. You're not going to step in here, you're not going to compact the soil down. I'm using a organic fertilizer of 546. I do recommend try to stay around the 555 fertilizer. If you go higher, that's okay, don't stress out, but you just really don't need much more. To set up the soil, and again, these are my transplants. I have videos to show you how to grow your own transplants if you want to do that, but again, it's a little late to start from seed now, so if you don't have transplants, see what you can find at the store. So 1 or 2 tablespoons is generally what's recommended in most packaged fertilizers. Be the fertilizers, I'm going to keep this in there because I want to be able to say it. If it's a chemical process fertilizer or an organic fertilizer, it's about 1 to 2 tablespoons. What you don't want to do is set your tomato or your pepper right on top of the fertilizer, so mix in your 2 tablespoons really well, 8, 10, 12 inches deep. And that's going to be plenty of fertilizer to get your plant started. This jalapeno's been growing in here a little bit long. Look how the roots are bound. So you can just break them up so they'll get growing into the ground in different directions. We're going to plant it to about here. Get the dirt around it, press it in, and that's set up. Put the mulch back around, and the jalapeno is in. Same thing for the tomato. We're also going to stake these up. Now the tomatoes I'm putting along this side because the sun is going to come this way. I also don't want them to block off the peppers that are back here. Just clear out the mulch. Dig a hole 6, 10 inches deep. We're going to go a little deeper with this, and we're going to bury it to about here. So I'll remove this stem or that leaf. and this leaf. 1 to 2 tablespoons. Try and hang around the 5-5-5 fertilizer. Again, you don't want to set your plant right on the fertilizer, so mix it in nicely. These roots are a little bit wound up. Gently break them up so they look like that. Dropping in a good chunk of the stem. Press it in. Put the mulch back. And you have your tomatoes set up. Now I'm not going to do that one on the video. The other thing you want to do is they're going to need at least a 6-foot pole. These are cherry tomatoes. So you'll prune them to manage the size, but they're going to get a good 6 feet. But get the posts in now before the roots spread out. This way you're not damaging any roots. So this is how I would set up this raised bed. It conserves resources. Remember that everything goes right into the middle. Helps with the water. Pay attention to the shadow. You can see my hand so that your bigger plants don't shadow out your other plants. And then when you're fertilizing, just fertilize the planting holes. This way it'll save you money and again conserve resources. Put my beds to sleep for the winter. I keep it pretty simple. This is for an organic prep. The thing with organic fertilizers is you put them in the ground and then the soil life breaks them down and makes the fertilizer turn into a form of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium that the plants can use. You don't need to do this with the processed or chemical fertilizers because they're already in a form that the plant can use. So there's no point to really putting down the chemical or processed fertilizers now. You can just put them in later when you're planting if you're going to use them. But for the organic fertilizer, typically this is a 3-4-6. I just say get close to a 5-5-5, 5 nitrogen, 5 potassium, 5 phosphorus, as close as you can get, but this is perfectly fine. And generally speaking, it's 1 to 2 tablespoons per square foot. So a square foot is like from here to here. These are a 4x4 bed, 4 times 4 is 16 square feet, about 32 tablespoons. And you know, if you're going to dish out 32 tablespoons from that bag, it's going to take you a while. That's an 8-ounce cup that holds about 15 tablespoons. So into a space like this, my 4x4, I just take 2 cups and sprinkle it, a little windy, sprinkle it evenly as much as you can. Let me get a little closer. 1 cup on one half of the 4x4, the other cup would go there, and then I would just turn it over. I'm not going to show you that, but just turn it over with a shovel about 10 to 12 inches and let it sit for the winter, and come spring you're ready to plant. You have enough fertilizer in there to get your plants going, and you can just start from there. Also into this space, I'm going to take those 4 containers of asparagus and put them into here. I'm going to show you, how I do that. And it's, no rocket science behind it. Basically what I did is I started them growing in those containers because I did not know where I was going to put them, but they're going to go right into this space. The winter, the fall is a great time to transplant and move your asparagus, your herbs, other plants, because they're going into hibernation, so you can move them to a new location. The roots will, sort of just sit there, be okay, slowly establish over the fall and winter, and come spring, the plants will be in full growth and give you the greens and everything that you want. So just dig the hole deep enough to take the whole root ball of the asparagus out of the container, and those are 2 plants right there. In the bottom of the hole, even though I put fertilizer on top, the organic fertilizer on top, down in the bottom, 2 tablespoons of the organic fertilizer, mixed it in well. And all you do, dig the hole, and I'm gonna drop that asparagus right there into the hole. It's that easy to transplant it. If you were digging it up, you would just dig a nice root ball around the asparagus about this size so that you can get as much of the root as possible. Loosen it up a little bit. Just drop it into the hole and then fill it. You want the level to stay about level with the garden. Don't put too much soil over the top. A little bit is okay. Rock it in, make sure there's no gaps of air. And that's all I need to do to transplant my asparagus. I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4. and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. The 4 asparagus plants are in. This is all you have to do. So if you want to move your perennials to new spots in the garden, move them, you know, in the fall when it's cooler. Just dig out the root system, put it in a new place. The cool weather will take care of the root system. The plant will come back nice and strong in the spring. I also dropped in some asparagus into that container. I want to see if you can get a good harvest from containers. These will be second year asparagus plants, almost third year, because I started them from seed. And you really need about 3 years for your asparagus to establish so that you can harvest the spears. Some more organic fertilizer going down. Remember, it's 2 8-ounce cups in a 4x4 foot space. Just sprinkle it across the top evenly, dig it in about 12 inches, and that's all you have to do. I'll show you the finished garden when I leave, and that will be it for 2016 for the community plot. The community garden has been put to sleep. Fertilizer's down, as I was describing. Turned over all the beds that will have beans or melons next year. We're going to change this garden up a little bit. Also put 2 or 3 tablespoons of the organic fertilizer into the containers. Turn that over. Oh, forgot that one back there. I'm going to build a couple more raised beds right in here next year. But this is pretty much it for 2016. I'm going to harvest the rest of the Swiss chard. We had really great weather here. Today is the 3rd of December. I'm going to take that, and I will be back here probably middle of February. Thanks for watching.